What is up, YouTube? Brandon here, and today we're going to be doing a quick review of my Walther PPQ M2 in 9mm. I've had this gun for about 3 years. I'm in California, so this gun is notoriously difficult to get because it's off the roster and it's a desirable gun on top of that. Fortunately, the gentleman I bought this from had bought 2 of them before the single shot exemption was removed, and then this was the one that he hadn't used, so I got it basically new from the factory, and the only shots that had been fired through it were the ones from the factory, so that was nice. So we're going to go through the things I liked about it stock, the things I didn't like about it stock, and then the changes I've made to either address those things or just upgrade the gun. So first things first, this gun is the Walther PPQ M2 in 9mm. This is, I believe, the 4-inch barrel version. Gun's clear. So there's that. All right, so things I liked about this gun from the factory. Number one, the ergonomics of this gun are just phenomenal. This is the best handling gun. It just fits in my hand fantastic. Comes with 3 separate back straps. I like the largest one, and this gun feels the best in my hand of any gun I've ever held. I'd say second place is the HK VP9, which came out recently, but this is still more ergonomically comfortable. So that's its number one selling point for me. Number two is it comes with a fantastic factory trigger. You see here I don't have a factory trigger anymore mostly because I like the flat face triggers in all my guns, but the factory trigger is fantastic. It's about 4.5 pound pull weight. It has a very short reset, and it's just really crisp and nice. So I think this has the best factory trigger of any polymer gun on the market. Another thing that's really nice about this gun is it is ruthlessly reliable. I've ran thousands of rounds through this gun of various factory ammos, never had a problem. I've done multiple classes, never had a problem. I've had one failure to feed in all the time I've had this gun, and that was using some cheap reloads I bought online. I know I shouldn't have bought them, but it was such a good deal. And they were having trouble, really a lot of trouble, feeding through my CZ 2075 Rammy. This gun actually chewed up most of those rounds okay, but it did have one failure to feed because those rounds were undercharged with powder. But in factory ammo or the reloads I've done that are properly charged, I've never had a malfunction. So this gun is amazing in that regard. The last thing I'd say that's really, really good about this gun is the accuracy. Out of the box, this gun is way more accurate than I was when I got it. When I got this gun, this was my first polymer gun and the first gun I really trained with. I had a revolver, a 357 Ruger, for a long time, but I never really trained with it. So when I got this gun at 25 yards, I was barely able to stay in like the torso of the target. It was really bad. 3 years later, using this gun, I can get basically CD-sized groups. So, a little bigger than fist, maybe about that big, groups at 25 yards with slow fire. So I think that's pretty good improvement, and I attribute a lot of that to how good this gun is, how easy it is to use. Okay, so those are the things I really liked about this gun. Things I don't like about this gun from the factory is, number one, I really don't like the fact that it comes with a plastic guide rod. I've replaced mine with this, I'll show you later, but it comes with a plastic guide rod. That may be ruthlessly reliable, I don't know, but I just don't like the idea of having a plastic guide rod, so that's something I switched out. Another thing this gun has that I don't particularly find troublesome, but some do, is that the bore axis is slightly higher than other guns in its class. So this gun will have slightly more muzzle flip than some other guns, comparable guns on the market. So you need to decide, is that a big deal to you or not? For me, it's not, and especially because I'm hanging this big light off the front. Muzzle flip's not an issue, but something to be aware of. The final kind of major issue I had with this gun was when I decided I wanted to put an RMR on it. I discovered that this gun is very, very difficult to mill for an RMR because the way it's designed, the firing pin is situated rather high in the slide. So to mill out space for the RMR, they actually have to mill into the firing pin channel, and most gunsmiths were unwilling to do it. I had to go online. I found a gunsmith who fortunately was able to do it, did a fantastic job, but it was horribly expensive. It was over $400 just to get the milling and the fabricating of this plate. So if you're looking for a gun to have an RMR, either buy the newer PPQs that come pre-milled for an RMR, or buy a different gun that's going to be cheaper to do that, because the PPQ M2, the older versions, not something you want. Another thing, this gun comes with decent sights from the factory, but they're like faster sights, so they have a lot of space between the front post and the rear notches. So if you want more precise sights, you'll probably want to switch those out. In my case, I just went to an RMR eventually with suppressor sights, so that wasn't an issue. And one more thing I forgot to mention that I do like about this gun as well is that it's ambidextrous friendly. So my wife's a lefty, so having an ambidextrous control system is nice for us because then it's easy for her to use. She doesn't train really at all, so having something that's intuitively lefty friendly is valuable to me. Okay, so those are the things I like. Those are the things I didn't like about this gun. Now, the things I've changed or added, first thing is the TLR2. I had a TLR1 for a long time. Now we have the TLR2. So it just adds a little weight up front. I like lights that protrude a little bit, so if it was jammed in, it's not going to go out of battery. And then this one has the integral laser, as you can see there, green laser. And that's good, particularly for my wife, because she doesn't train. So you just turn the laser on, point it, and you're going to hit center mass. So that's nice. I found I don't really like the laser. I like the RMR better. It's more accurate and precise for me, but it's nice to have the option of a laser for someone who doesn't train very much. Okay, other changes I've made. I swapped out the stock trigger for an Apex flat face trigger, and then I also swapped out the trigger return spring for a lighter spring. So my trigger pull is actually a little less than 3.5 pounds, which is very nice. So I'll show you this trigger. It's just phenomenal for polymer gun. So we had take up, boom, reset is nothing. Oh my god, I love it. It's just so good. The best striker fired trigger that I've ever fired. So really dig the trigger on this thing. Makes it shooting so easy. The other change I've made internally is so there's the modified trigger spring. So the other change I've made internally is I swapped out the plastic guide rod for I was just looking for a steel guide rod, and then this thing popped up, so I bought it at the time. It's called a recoil reduction kit from, I think it's like DPM or DPM Systems. Basically, there's an internal spring, and there's another spring, and there's a spring on top. So it's a triple spring kind of buffer system. Allegedly, it reduces muzzle flip. I'd be hard pressed to say I've noticed any difference, but for me it was more just to get a metal guide rod assembly, so I got that out of it. Whether it was worth the price premium, hard to say. I think if you switched them out and just handed me the gun and I didn't know, I probably wouldn't notice, so take that for what you will. But again, I'm not the greatest shooter, so maybe professionals would notice more than me. All right, so that's my PPQ M2 and 9mm. I think it's probably the best, or at least in the top couple polymer guns that you can buy. If you value ergonomics and a great trigger and ruthless reliability, this is a fantastic gun. If you want a gun that you can put an RMR on, a gun with a little bit lower bore axis that's going to have less muzzle flip, like a CZ75, probably not the gun for you. So it works for me. If it doesn't work for you, hopefully this has enumerated some reasons you will or will not like it. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. All right, thanks.